Welcome to Chicago Drives Podcast, your go-to source for all things related to driving in Chicago. From navigating the city's busy streets to understanding the latest traffic laws. What are your questions? Our amazing guests are some of the best people in the business to answer and keep you ahead of the automotive curve. Am I ready to drive alone? What's that sound? Did I get ripped off? How do I protect this huge investment? We are here to help you become a safe and responsible driver on the road. So buckle up and join us in this journey through the ins and outs of driving in the Windy City. Welcome to Chicago Drives Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the episode of the Chicago Drives Podcast from Nova, Chicago #1 driving school. The show dedicated to broadcasting from the beautiful streets of Humboldt Park here in Illinois. So I am your host, Naya Chota, and we're going to talk about a very important issue that will impact your driving, distracted driving. To delve deeper into this topic, I have here my friend Frank, and also an instructor here at Nova School. So buckle up as we explore the hidden behind the dangers of losing focus behind the wheel. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is distracted driving? At its core, distracted driving is any activity that diverts your attention away from driving. This can be visual, manual, or cognitive. So Frank, can you explain a bit more about these types of distractions?
Visual distractions take your eyes off the road. They cause cognitive difficulties and manual distractions. Reaching for something like a water bottle, a coffee cup, takes your eyes off the road, takes your attention off the road. Having a conversation takes your mind off of the driving task. Being in a deep thought takes your mind off of the driving task. So all these distractions will affect. And the phone holds all three of these distractions. You have to hold your phone, that's manual. Mm-hmm. You have to look at your phone, that's visual. And you have to think about what you're reading so that you can respond, and that's right. The cognitive. So yes, all of that is involved.
Well, to truly grasp the gravity of this issue, let's look at some statistics. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, distracted driving claimed 3,142 lives in the United States in a single year. So Frank, how does this affect us locally here in Illinois with these facts?
Well, here in Illinois, hundreds of accidents are attributed to distracted driving. These aren't just numbers. They represent the lives cut short by this, and families affected forever. They're going to be changed forever. At Nova Driving School, we constantly emphasize the importance of staying focused while driving to prevent these tragedies from occurring.
Totally agree with you, Frank. So let's break down the different types of distractions a bit more. Frank, can you give us some examples, like what is visual and what is a manual distraction?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, common example of visual distraction is looking at your phone. And that one, like I said earlier, holds all three because you have to hold the phone. Mm-hmm. You have to take your eyes off the road to read what the message may be that you're reading. Mm-hmm. And you're thinking about your response plus while you're reading. Right. So for manual distractions, something as simple as looking at your phone is a huge distraction.
So let's paint a picture with some real world scenarios. My friend, can you describe a common situation that you've seen on the streets of Chicago and how a small distraction can have a big consequences when you're being distracted?
I see a lot of examples, some minor, some major. One major one, or not major, but most common one, is when the traffic light changes to green and you're behind the car that's at the stoplight. They don't see the light change because they're busy on their phone texting.
Correct.
So then the light changes, you're there, the cars behind you are all waiting, and nobody's going anywhere. Eventually, after a couple of seconds, you blow the horn, and then the person that you just blew the horn at gives you the middle finger through their back window.
That is so
and
true.
They're the ones making the mistake, but yet you're the one that's getting blamed for it. So that's just one. There's all kinds of distractions. You're following someone and you hear the little ping on your phone and you look at your phone. It takes you 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds to read the text. You took your eyes off the road for those 3 seconds, but during those 3 seconds, the car in front of you has braked, and then you're up to your elbows on the brakes, trying to avoid the accident that's inevitable, because now you have no distance to stop, and boom, you see that happen out there all the time. People texting and getting into an accident.
And this could be fatal for both
This
of the
can
drivers.
be fatal if you're on the expressway. It definitely could be fatal. If you're on the regular streets, well, it's going to cost you a lot of damage to your car, possibly injuries, most likely not fatal. But if you're on the expressway and that happens, more than likely it's going to be fatal. Your chances of surviving a crash at 55, 65 miles an hour are very slim compared to at 30 miles an hour.
Wow, that was so interesting, Frank. Thank you so much. So now let's dive into the science of why distracted driving is so dangerous. So can you explain how our brain works when we are being multitasking? I'm not a multitasker. I can't do that. But I see a lot of people doing so many things while they're driving and not paying attention to the road. So give us some good examples, or perhaps some advices that we need to take while we're driving.
Well, just the act of driving takes a lot of concentration. And the more factors you involved into your driving task, the more likely you are to have an accident. You see people on the road, they're smoking, they're eating a sandwich, they have the soda between their legs, they're smoking, they have the sandwich, they take a puff of their cigarette and then take a bite of their sandwich and then take some drink, and they're adding more. And then now they are tuning the radio with their hand on the, even though you have the buttons on the steering wheel, they're tuning the radio with their, and they're adding more and more. And then they have a conversation with their passenger. You add all these distractions, you're more likely to have an accident. You need to be on the task that requires all your attention, which is driving. That means that even a brief distraction can have serious consequences.
And the brain is made in a different way that cannot do a lot of things at the same time, because it loses focuses, right?
Absolutely. Our brain is not designed to multitask, especially when driving. We need to be concentrated on the one task that we are doing. It's hard to have a conversation and you write a story. Half of your conversation is going to be written into the story when it's not even supposed to be in there, for example. And the same holds true with the driving. You're driving, having a conversation, eating something, then you're going to crash. Very serious. With too many tasks at one time. We can't do that. Our brains are not designed that way.
Okay, well, that is very interesting how our brain functions and works while we're driving. So let's talk about the consequences of distracted driving. So it can be so devastating, Frank. Can you talk more about the legal issue of, being part of these consequences? I know, here in Illinois, driving under the influence is one thing, but I think we should have a very conscious about, driving with not paying attention, being distracted kind of issue too. What do you think about those legal issues that
there's many legal consequences that include hefty fines. Here in Illinois, you can only get 3 tickets in a 12-month period. And then you can lose your license if you get 3 moving violations. That's not to mention if you have an accident with those violations. That just makes it more costly. The cost of fixing your car, the financial increase of your insurance policy, your premiums are going to go up. Injuries that may have occurred, your health insurance is going to go up. And that's not including the emotional and psychological costs between you and your family. Your family is going to suffer if you get injured. If you get injured to the point where you are no longer a functioning person in society, but you're still alive, now they have to deal with you for the rest of your life, and you're putting this on their shoulders. So there is a lot of consequences, monetary and health and emotional.
Yeah. Wow, that's so impact, Frank. So now let's get closer a little bit to our own personal life. Do you think having a different type of procedures to, bang this, like distracted driving, will help us, get this a better position in this distracted driving? What do you think? Is there any personal experiences that you've been through this distracted driving issue?
Yes, I have a perfect example. I was in Des Plaines, Illinois teaching my students driving, and I'm in the passenger seat trying to teach, and a car was passing right by me blowing the horn, and it turned out it was a student that I had taught, and they were excited to see me. But while they're looking at me saying hi, I'm pointing ahead of them because the traffic in front of them had stopped.
Oh.
So they didn't realize because they were looking at me, and I'm pointing, watch it, watch it, watch it. And by the time he looked forward, he slammed on brakes and hit the other car in front.
Oh,
and I'm like,
wow.
oh my God. And he was just being happy because he saw me. That's a simple distraction. Luckily, we were moving fast. It was one of those situations that there was damage, but nobody got injured. Thank God.
Thank God.
But yeah, that happens all the time.
Thank you, Frank, for that story. I'm sorry for that student. But so how can we combat this distracted driving? In Nova Driving School, we have a lot of good tips, and I want you to share with the audience, that whoever is looking at us through this podcast, what can we do to combat distracting driving?
Sure, absolutely. Set your GPS, for example, so that the GPS is guiding you. With the GPS on voice, you don't have to even look at the GPS because it tells you turn by turn where to go. It even tells you what lane to be in before you turn.
Right.
Choose whatever playlist you're going to play before. Let's see, you can put your phone on silent. Use apps that block incoming calls so that you don't get calls. You can be aware of the mental state that you're in. Your feelings, you're stressed, you're tired, that can affect your driving. Take a break. Don't get behind the wheel of the car until you have settled yourself. And it's not just, excuse me, it's not just anger or sadness. Even when you're extremely happy, your thoughts are on what got you happy, and you're thinking about what you got happy about. Before you get out on the road, call a friend. When you are extremely excited, the first thing you want to do is tell somebody about your excitement. Call a friend before you get on the road. Get it off your chest. Once you have expressed to your friend your excitement, now your level of excitement is down. Same thing with sadness or anger. Call a friend. Get it off your chest. Once you realize that you're no longer at that level of anger or that level of sadness, then you're more manageable to drive.
Thank you so much, Frank, for that input. I think it's very important as parents and as professionals, instructors, to be part of this education, especially to the younger drivers that we have, and to teach them about distracted driving. So what can we do as educators, and what can we do as parents to mend or fix or kind of work with the teens about this type of distractions?
Well, education is key, especially for young drivers. Phone distraction is the biggest issue, and the parents have to play a crucial role in educating their children along with us. We can tell the parents, but we hardly see the parents.
Right.
We see the teens, they're kids. So we try to tell the kids as much as we can that you can't use the phone. But we also have bad examples by some parents that are constantly using the phone while they drive in front of their teens.
Yes.
So then their teens come to the realization that if my parents can do it, I can do it.
Exactly.
Yes. But we have to figure out a way to get to the parents so that the parents can play the role of preventative measures. Keep their kids from using it. Now, there's also cameras that are being introduced that parents can purchase to put on their visor or on their mirror to record the children while they're driving.
It's like monitoring them.
Exactly, it's
Wow,
monitoring
that's excellent
them.
idea.
Yes, and then they can see exactly what's happening. They can see whenever they're using the phone, and then they can let them know, hey, look, I saw you. You can't deny it.
Right. That's excellent advice. And as instructors that we're here, we always advocate for this type of things, that if you're driving, you're not supposed to be on the phone. If you're driving, you need to make sure that you're paying attention all around yourself or while they're driving, right, Frank?
Absolutely. You have to pay as much attention as possible. You have to always keep in the back of your mind that a car is a potential 3,000-pound killing machine.
Right.
And lethal weapon. And it's not just yourself that you can hurt. You can hurt everyone in your car and everyone around you. So it's very dangerous if not held properly. handled properly.
Yep. So in our classes, where we provide this type of knowledge with the teens, especially, we touch about distraction, there being dangers. We touch about how a car functions. We touch so many things that when they leave the classroom, they have all this knowledge. Now they have to implement it now on the road.
Exactly. And not only do we teach this to the students in class, and we emphasize on defensive driving and combating distracted driving, but when we get the teens on the road, we re-emphasize all of this. What we teach in class, we emphasize and re-emphasize while we're teaching them on the road. We're constantly informing them about distractions. And we give examples that we see on the road, because as we're teaching the students, we see other people doing wrong
things.
And then as they do wrong, we inform them, hey, look, did you see that car? You see what he was doing? He was reading the newspaper while he was turning the wheel.
Exactly. How can
For
that
example,
happen?
yes. We saw somebody eating a bowl of cereal while they're driving. They're driving and eating a bowl of cereal and driving.
Wow.
That is very dangerous. And phones all the time. I'm constantly pointing out drivers with phones. And I said, you see, he's driving with his phone in his hand, and he had to brake suddenly because he didn't see the car in front of him brake.
All right, what exciting topic we had today in this podcast, Frank. So let's think about our final thoughts. As we wrap up, Frank, what are the key takeaways that you want our listeners to remember about distracted driving?
Well, key takeaways could be distracted driving is preventable. It starts with each one of us making a commitment and stay focused. Prioritize on safety. Use technology when possible, for example, the GPS. Plan ahead your route. Plan ahead any stops that you're going to make along the road.
Right.
And emphasize this to others. Remember that no texting or calls, no distractions while driving. It's not worth the risk. It's not worth your life. It's not worth the lives of others on the road.
Thank you for tuning in to Chicago Drive Podcast. I hope today's episode has opened your eyes to serious dangers of distracted driving and inspire you to take action. So remember, every journey begins and ends with safe driving. Stay alert, stay focused, and drive responsibly. Until next time, this is Naya Chota signing out from this beautiful place in Humboldt, Chicago. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye. And that's all for today from Chicago Drive Podcast. Drive safely, Chicago. If you found the episode valuable, please, please, please share with all your friends and families so together we can make a change. Bye. Say bye.
That's all, folks.